Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or a small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com. All right, welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen. I'm joined again by Tony Colomb and our friend Pam Walker, who in our last episode just started telling us about Rwanda. And the Rwanda thing, Pam, is really interesting because we kind of like evolved in like what we were doing there. I think I went like very early on,
Yep.
and it started off kind of one way and then ended up kind of being like getting more refined. And we've seen like a shift in missions. But why don't you just tell about, I'd love you just to talk about from like a personal standpoint, what was
Sure.
your first experience like the first time you went to Rwanda? What was it like for you to go to that
Um,
country? And like Tony's done some mission work and he was in Japan, and
yeah.
you go to a different culture and you experience some things. But what was your experience like walking into Rwanda for the first time?
So, yeah, so because the Lord had had me praying and seeking and repenting and crying out for the people of Rwanda, I was so excited when he made a way. I mean, he heard the desires of my heart, right? He heard them. And I remember getting off that plane. I have a photograph of me standing on the tarmac making a big A, like I am in Africa. It was like Simba. Whoa, whoa. I mean, I was ecstatic just to be there. And to be honest with you, Eric, I was like a little girl in a candy store. Everywhere I went, everything that happened, every experience, every smell, every sight, I was running from one thing to the next. And I took a lot of photos and we were doing the big, you just evangelize wherever you're at, and all these people are crowding around you because you're the only American they've ever seen. And hundreds of people, I think our first trip, we had 5,000 people plus made decision for Christ.
Wow.
Um, and I know only God knows, He knows in all those people. But
Yeah, sure.
I was just very overwhelmed with excitement to be there. And I realized later that I didn't even get names. I knew my ministry partner slash translator and people I serve with on the field, and some of them I'm still really good friends with today. So that's relationships from 2007 to now. But I made a point when I went the next year to stop and write names down, the people that I met. When I returned home, my husband could definitely see something different in me. He looked at the photos and he said, Pam, and it's like the smile was like literally my whole face was lit up that God would allow
Mhm.
somebody like me in the darkness and the places I had walked
Mm,
to go across the world to tell somebody about Jesus.
Yeah.
mm,
Know that
mhm,
delight yourself in the Lord, and He
mhm,
will give you the desires of your heart and
And
always.
and the thing that happens when you go there, is like the people, and for people that have never done this, like
Hmm.
Rwanda is kind of has like one massive city that has like millions of people, and then
Yes,
there's like everything around it's rural, you
yes,
know?
absolutely.
And so when you fly
It's
into
night and day.
Kigali, it's not that different than America. I mean, it's
Mm-mm.
different, but they have cell phones and they're riding
Yeah,
around and they're wearing the same kind of clothes, and it's,
yeah,
cities are kind of cities wherever you go kind of thing. But
mhm,
then when the places that we would go on these trips are
yes,
always into the rural, into the small
yes,
towns and communities and villages. And these people are so innocent in
yeah.
their in like the in what's going on in the world, and
Hmm.
so like welcoming. They're genuinely interested in meeting you and hearing what you
Yes,
have to say.
Yes.
It's so different than like doing evangelism like that here in America. I mean, Tony, have
Yes.
you ever gone like door to door and like knocked on people's doors and tried to talk to them about Jesus?
Oh
In
yeah.
America?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rough and it's not, it's always like that, like, what the heck are you doing on my
Yeah.
property? Doesn't
Yes.
matter what part of
Yes.
the country
Yes.
you're in either. So,
Yes.
So like our
Yes.
strategy is like we take an American,
mhm.
we're one of the Americans, a translator, and then I don't know if they did this originally, but I think they did. They like have like a local, someone like
Yes.
from that village or that area that
Yes.
kind of can help us navigate where we're at and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there's streets laid out and stuff. It's like, I think there's a house over around that hill,
Just there. They say
and there's
just
always
there.
another hill because
Just
it's
there,
the
yeah.
land of a thousand
Yes.
hills.
Yeah.
And so the person, the local will say, "Hey, I'm here with a friend from America.
Yeah.
He's here to tell people about Jesus. Do you want to hear what he has to say?" You kind of get the gist of what they're saying. And I'm not kidding you. The first time, um, not one person said no.
Yeah.
Mm,
Every single person, like, sure. Like I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything. And they're subsistence farmers, so they don't have like watches and cell phones and they're
Mhm.
like, they'll like set their hoe against a tree and go like, yeah, well, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Like what do you
It's so
or
beautiful.
yeah, or come
oh
on in,
man,
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
they
sounds
have like
lovely.
houses that are made of dirt.
Hmm.
The floor is dirt, the walls are dirt bricks, the ceiling is like some sticks and some thatch or something. And there's like a lot of times one bench in the houses and
Yeah.
they want you to sit on it because you're the honored guest, and they'll sit on the floor. And
In
then
the
it's
dirt
like,
many times.
yeah, yeah, in the
Sleeping in the
dark
dirt.
because there's no electricity, there's no lights.
Yeah.
So it's very dim. And then you start. And the basic thing is like, tell my story and then tell God's story.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the approach. What used to happen, and I mentioned, I kind of teased this a little bit, Pam, but tell me if you think this is accurate, if I'm remembering it right. But I feel like in the beginning, it was a lot of emphasis on like how many houses you could get to,
Yes.
and
Absolutely. Yeah.
at some point people realize we're creating spiritual orphans here because we're like telling someone the gospel and then kind of abandoning them. So talk about how that changed.
Yeah. So yeah, my first few years going is like I said, it was about, how many people basically can you share Christ with?
Sure.
And we would be sent into a community and you would be flocked by hundreds of people sometimes, and they all raise their hand and accept Jesus. So there's no getting names. You can't get their names.
No way.
So again, as I was speaking earlier, in my own personal experience, there's no discipleship. There
Right.
is no discipleship. There's no way. Now, what we did do is we would say, well, this afternoon we're having a gathering at such and such tree in this field, meet us there. And then
Mm,
there could easily be 200 or 300 people to show
sure,
up and hear the
sure.
message from the American. And some more would maybe come to Christ there. And then we would try the first couple of years, put them in groups and do a Bible story or a discipleship lesson.
Hmm.
Um, but there was just really no follow-up. You could
Yeah.
not follow up with that, even though
Right.
the plan was to try to follow up. A lot of the follow-up was with the pastor in the area or what we called our mission point leader,
Hmm.
that was planning a daughter church for a
Hmm.
pastor.
Hmm.
And we would have 10 areas like that
Right.
because we would have that many people want to go. And then we would do it 5 times a year. But there
Right.
was really no way to go behind all those decisions for Christ
Yeah. Yeah.
and disciple people.
Yeah. And I wonder if part of the reason, like because this isn't just specific to this mission that you all have done, like,
Right.
Eric and I both went to Ozark Christian College in
Okay.
Joppa, Missouri, and there's a lot of missions activity that comes out of there. And
Okay.
I was there in the early part of the 2000s, and so just remember getting connected with a bunch of missions, hearing about a bunch of missions,
Yeah.
and to spend a little bit of time as a missionary myself. And it's like as someone in the States, you got to raise the money to go do these
Yep.
things. And so it's like
Yep.
two big pillars for that strategy, right? A story that gets people to cry,
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
because like the purse strings are attached to the emotion
Yes.
when it comes to
Yes.
giving. And then
Yeah.
what are the metrics that we can like produce that
Yes.
say it was worth, like you're getting an
Yes.
ROI here that is
That's
worth.
it.
So if we go and we got 100 people, 300 people to hear the gospel,
Hmm.
oh, let's keep pumping money into it.
Yeah.
That's
That's so true.
easier.
Oh my
It's a
gosh.
it's an easier metric than
Hmm.
discipleship.
Yes. And
Because I
yes.
mean, and even when we try to attach the metric to discipleship, it's well, how many people are enrolled in our Discover Bible study or our small groups
Yes.
versus how do you measure the fruit of somebody becoming more faithfully obedient to
Mm,
Christ and his commandments? It's a lot harder
yeah.
to measure.
That's really good.
So do you feel like maybe like that was a bit of the tension there, and it sounds like from what you guys were hinting at, there was kind of a shift a little bit in
Hmm.
mentality. What brought that about?
Yeah. I really don't know what was the catalyst. I know E3 is a huge organization that go into about 40 countries. And
Mm,
somewhere, I would say around 2010 or 11, this
hmm
shift came where, and the puzzling thing to me was they wouldn't say we were planting churches anymore, especially in Rwanda. Other countries they may call it planting churches, but the law in Rwanda is such you can't have a house church. And the reason behind that is that genocide was planned under the guise of Bible study. The
Oh,
law
wow.
in Rwanda is very strict to
Uh,
this day
uh-huh.
of how you gather people and what you call it. We could have
Oh.
we could have Bible studies, but we could not say house church, or we could say discipleship groups. But so we had to be careful
Mm,
what we called it,
right.
because they wouldn't allow it to happen. And the people are going to follow what the government says. End of
That
discussion. That's what's going to happen.
that is such a fascinating
Yeah.
like note of context and knowing the history
Hmm.
there and
Yes.
being able to adopt that model.
Yeah. And so it was very difficult for the pastors in Rwanda and then the leadership that we worked under. We had several changes in leadership, and the leadership now is a woman named Anna Kasinga, who is highly respected in
Mm,
Rwanda. And she would try to tell Mike and Mary, Mike was saying, well, this is the new model. And then Anna would push back because of, and fear.
mm,
Uh, and so they had to find a compromise. So we
sure.
still had the elephant church.
Yeah, like the
So
big gathering.
all the house groups, we call them groups,
Okay.
had to be connected back to this. They could not be independent.
Right.
They still cannot be independent, right?
Right.
So the
Sure.
house groups, which are
Okay.
modeling everything of healthy church,
Sure, sure.
are connected back to that
Right.
original church.
Right.
And so what we began to see happening, because it was like, oh, this will never work, this will never work. Of course,
Mm.
we always say this will never work. But God has bigger plan. We make
Watch.
our plans, He orders our steps, right? And
Mhm.
so what began to happen is they loved it because they began meeting. Not only did they love it, but I begin to see that I can go in a home and begin, just a small chit chat and then share my testimony and
Mm.
God's story, and then ask, hey, do you have time to read the word? And many of them had Bibles and would go drag out their Bible and get the dust off, and because
Mm.
their churches were not encouraging to read the word at home.
Right.
But for the first time, people were opening up their word and discovering for themselves what the word said.
Are you
The
talking
ones
about
in
no,
there.
this is I had to step out for a second. You're talking about Rwanda and the house.
Yeah, I was saying
Yeah.
how it shifted in 2010, 2011, but we couldn't call them house churches because genocide
Right, right,
Yeah.
was
right.
planned
That's the
under house
context.
church. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we began calling them uh, groups or
Yeah, yeah.
just whatever we could call them. But people began realizing they could open the Word of God for themselves and discuss it.
Yeah.
And
It's
And
it's
great.
it's a
began
total.
discovering that everything wasn't true, what might be
Yeah,
taught
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
in the church.
And
Yeah.
We had a
it's
lot
a
of
total change for them and for
total,
us of mentality
yeah,
because even there, like when we would train like local churches and pastors to think this way and do this thing, and they still want to default back to like, let's build a
Mhm.
building and have a
Yep.
preacher and
Yep.
right. They just
Yeah.
it's like the default
Yep.
mode around the world. That's what we
Well,
know.
Yeah.
it's right. It's like that fascinating philosophy that was baked into human culture, period, of like you
Yeah.
have to go to the professional slash expert in order
Mm,
for this, you know,
yeah.
and even for the church, it's like, I mean, our own history as a church, like when you
Yes.
were in periods of time where there was a Bible, two Bibles, three Bibles, and it's like you had to go to the
Mhm.
guy who held the Bible in order to get the word,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
So it's like
Yep.
none of this should be surprising, and yet it is surprising that this is the way people continue to think. So,
Hmm.
Well, so
but
what's crazy, some of the things that you experience when you do this that's so crazy for us is that like we would say to these people, and this isn't like once or something, you'd share the gospel with someone and they're like, I believe that. And like, do you want to become a disciple of Jesus? And they're like, yes. And
Yeah.
it's not like a Lucky Charm thing. Like, yeah, I've already
Hmm.
accepted the message from the
Right.
Catholics and the Seventh-day Adventists
yeah,
and Jehovah. Why
like
not?
prison
Yeah, it's not
ministry.
like that. They're
Yeah.
very interested in the message and like and they're
Hmm.
sincere in their faith
Yes.
and then what happens is you say, hey, is there anybody else around here that you think wants to hear this?
Yes.
Did you ever talk about this? And they'll go like scrounge up neighbors. They'll be like, I'll be
Yes.
right back. And they'll
Yeah.
come
They have
in
a
and there'll
whole
be a
crowd of
couple
people.
more. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you'll tell them that you'll say, I'm going to tell you share the gospel. And sometimes you say to the brand new convert, why don't
Mm.
you tell them? You know the gospel now. Why don't
Yep.
you tell them the gospel?
Mhm.
And a lot of times they accept also. And then you say, do you guys know anybody? And I mean, you start with like one lady that you caught doing dishes or something, and by the end you've got 18 people,
Yeah.
and you're
Amazing.
like, hey, why don't I teach you how to study the scripture, which I know you're talking about. And then
Yeah.
it's like, hey, if I'm here for like 5 more days, if I
Yeah.
come back every day at this time, would you guys commit to come back and I'll teach you how to study the scripture using Discovery Bible Study, right?
Hmm.
And they say yes. It's the craziest thing.
And
The
they're
answer is
so
always yes.
hungry.
Yeah.
That's
They're
awesome.
so hungry.
And
And
by
then when
the
you
end of
ask
it,
them the questions, what
yeah.
does this teach you about God or Jesus? What does this teach you about people? And they realize that they can answer the questions.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even the quietest person in the corner that has
Mhm.
never been given a voice can
Mm.
answer the questions. And we kind of monitor, because you always have those that want to talk the most,
Yeah,
and
sure.
For
that's in
sure.
every culture.
Yeah.
But let's hear from somebody that
Very
hasn't
cool.
shared,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then this little man or this little woman that's been dismissed for
Mm.
whatever reason finds their voice and to understand their part of something.
Yeah.
And so in the course
And
of like this, like a week-long campaign
yeah,
or 10 days or whatever it is, we'll start. It depends, and I think it was more at first because it was less reached. That people group is less reached than it is now. But we'd
yeah,
have 20, 30, house churches like that
yes,
started up
yep,
in the course of a week. So I
Wow.
want to I want to fast forward a little bit because
yeah,
you're starting something that I want to make sure we talk about
yeah,
because you did this for this thing that we talked about. You were working for really. We started working with as like a trip attender, and then you kind of started
yes,
working alongside as one of the team members for E3 Partners, which is a
yes,
big global ministry.
yeah.
And you were kind of one of the staffers for Rwanda. Would that be an accurate way to say that?
Yeah, because I
Okay.
just started out as a participant. I went that first year. I came home. I told my husband, "Oh my gosh, I have to go back." He said, "Well, Pam, that's a lot of money." And I just looked at him and I said, "I know." I said, "But I can't not go back." And he
Mm.
said,
Yep.
"Okay, if you raise the money, you can go." So I did that every year.
Yeah, you did.
Fast forward to 2016, I'd go at that May, June trip, right when school was ending, throw the kids, take them to Granny's. I'd go and yeah, 2016 is when the community development program was established. So I went to kind of participate and help with that before a team came in. and fell in love with that. And that was a program we still do, and it's basically off the Nehemiah. Everything we do is biblical. We don't make up stuff. We take it back to the Word of God, and this is based off the story of Nehemiah, how he recognized that the wall was down. I need to rebuild the wall.
Mm.
The locals, the king giving him permission, writing the letters. You go, what resources do you have to transform your community?
And that's what I love is like
It's
so this
so
follow-up
beautiful.
thing in these rural,
Mhm.
remote villages where people
Far out
are
villages.
dirt poor. It's
Dirt.
literally,
Yes.
asking like, what are the resources that you
Yes.
have, and how can we, not give you a handout, but give you a
Yep.
hand up.
That's
We're
it.
gonna basically do a training that allows you
Yeah.
to see opportunities that are right in your community that maybe you
Mm.
never had
Yeah.
the eyes to see before. So that's
It's
kind of
pretty
like a
amazing.
separate wing of like what E3
Hmm.
Partners, they always had, it was always like discipleship, house church,
Yes.
DMM stuff. But then they
Yeah.
started doing like little things. So like there would be like an HIV training because HIV is so
Right.
rampant. So you might have one team on your like 10 locations or 6 locations or something. You might have
Right.
one group of people that are traveling around kind of following behind you into these villages doing an
Right.
HIV training or a malaria training. I've seen
Yeah.
E3 do a
Mm.
malaria training.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so this is like another one of those things, but I think it started as like another one-off thing, and then it kind of
Yeah.
became a thing.
Yeah.
And
So we
go
did the
ahead.
malaria and the HIV. We had the cubes that even, just like an Evangel cube, they had
And the human
malaria.
trafficking one too.
I'm sorry?
And the
Oh,
human
for human
trafficking
trafficking.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we still do the trafficking part.
Okay.
We don't so much the other parts. And there became well, I'll get to that in a minute, but the community development, the community transformation, the people that was kind of heading that up, there was a guy named Josh Yarbrough that worked in Plano. He had such a heart for that. And so several people kind of joined that team, and I was one of them that wanted to bring sustainability into the country they had the heart for. So, but it never would take off with E3. And they even hired somebody in Plano. He spent a year there, but
Mm.
the heart that most of the E3 partner leadership had was more of the evangelism discipleship. And
Right.
they just didn't see the need for this. And I
Mm.
want to tell you just a real quick story that resonated with me. I'm in this little village and we're going up this dirt hill and they're steep and we're about halfway up. And here come this young man and I asked him, did he have a minute? No, he didn't have a minute. And I said, well, I want to share something with you. He didn't have a minute. And he's still walking off. And I said, but I have the bread of life. And he turned around and looked at me and he said, but I cannot hear the bread of life when I don't have real bread for my stomach.
Mm.
Um,
And
Mhm.
then I said, but I have crackers. And he came back down the hill and I
Uh,
gave him the crackers and then he listened to the gospel and he was saved and he showed up for Bible study that afternoon.
mm.
And so something, because sharing the gospel is one of my favorite things to do, right? And share what God's done and what he wants to do for you. But it became something within me. I know it was the Lord of what you're doing is a good thing. Sharing Christ is an amazing thing. But when you go home, when you say, I know I'm leaving, I will see you again in heaven, chances are they may get to heaven before me because they are starving. And I'm going back to my cushy America. And
Mm.
then this community development thing. And so what I loved about it is we could do the training. They came up with their own projects. We did not give money. It was just this 3 or 4 day training and there's different parts of the gospels in there though. But what was the perfect relationship? What was the broken? And when our relationship with Christ was broken in the garden, their relationship with each other was broken. Their relationship with creation was broken, and all these things. And
Yeah.
they have so many amazing resources in Rwanda that they can't even see because they were told for so long you can't do anything.
Mm.
right.
Right. And that comes through, that's a whole other story I won't even get into, but a
Yeah.
lot of the world is responsible for the poverty in other countries by saying, well,
Yeah.
you have to do things this way. And
Mm.
So
they
from your time with E3, you did that for, I mean, how many years?
started in 2016 up until 2020.
2020.
That was kind of my focus. 2019, 16 to 19, that's what I primarily did, was go in and do CT trainings. Um, Teams quit going in to just evangelize. Discipleship was in 17. Mike and Mary pulled out and went full time to India. And we might take one trip a year, something like that,
Yeah.
as an evangelism team. I would go 2 and 3 other times myself with Anna, and we would go and teach the CT, community development, community transformation curriculum. What happened with that is in 2020, I did a trauma training to take into Rwanda as well because they weren't allowed to talk about genocide, and many of them were just stuck because of the trauma.
Sure.
We got that training in very first part of 2020, and then COVID shut the world down.
Oh, yeah.
So I couldn't go. I couldn't take it to
Yeah.
Rwanda. But over the next couple of years through COVID, I trained many mission organizations in that trauma training online all over the world. God just
Mm,
opened that up. So they could take it back into their area. So we're talking about the Afghanistan crisis that happened again,
mm,
or the earthquake in Turkey, right? And so they began getting
right.
this trauma work, all these mission organizations, to how to meet people in those needs. And
Yeah.
then from that, they even are gathering people to hopefully at one point. So I tell you that little sidebar is because I trained Anna and some of the women online, the trauma work. And
Mm,
so when things opened back up and we went back in 2020, what I found, Charlie Miller and I went in like March of 2022. It's the first time back in the country, and we traveled around to these areas to see how they were doing. And what I found real quick, because they could not gather, they were not allowed a mile from their home. And then it was very sporadic. This was during COVID. They were
wow.
confined to their courtyards. The ones that had been trained in community transformation were thriving because what they call is, we have expanded our brain box, because we do a skit about expanding your mind and you have all these opportunities, but your mind's closed, and
Mm,
gather with your neighbor, right? They were thriving. There was groups that were meeting during COVID. If their neighbors did not have food, they were sharing food with their neighbors. If they
mm,
had money set aside for a big community project before COVID, they took that money and spent it on food for their neighbors that couldn't get to their gardens. So they were being, we use the Good Samaritan story a lot. What does it mean to love your neighbor? And so that opened my eyes up too, as how the community development piece was
mm,
needed. And so we made it hand in hand, evangelism, discipleship, and they go through the 10 lessons and commands of Christ, and then we bring in somebody because the groups are already formed, right? And so we bring in somebody and then teach them that next piece of the community development. And
And
so
so just real quick,
yeah.
so with E3,
Hmm.
you kind of started off doing the discipleship,
Yes.
church planning thing,
Yes.
and then it kind of you felt God tugging your heart toward the community transformation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at
Yes.
some point, and we don't have to get into all the reasons why, but at some point you knew it was the time
Mm-hmm.
to kind of pull away from
Shift.
E3 and kind of
Yeah.
do your own thing. And
Yeah.
I want to spend our last few minutes talking about
Sure.
that because that's
Okay.
so your new ministry is called Hope Ministries.
Yes.
And is it Rwanda only?
No. No.
Okay.
And we don't know what God's going to do with it because it's
So you're
all
not
brand new.
limiting it to Rwanda, but
I'm not limiting
okay,
because
great.
yeah, I've actually been doing a few trips, taking teams into Honduras. My pastor really wants the church involved in missions, and he's not ready to go all the way to Africa, but his heart is also for the mission field. And
Okay.
where can we partner in an area that's easy for the church to go maybe multiple times a year?
mm,
And
mhm.
his thinking for now, Rwanda is just a lot of money. And it is about
It
twice the
is a lot of
cost. So
money.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're working with a guy there as well. But the big hope is, Hope Ministries acronym, Hope is Healing Hearts. That's the trauma piece. Open Doors, CTPs, um, Providing Hope is the evangelism, and then Encouraging Growth is the discipleship.
Mm.
So what we've found in the last year is, and what's kind of been the catalyst, in 2024, the government came in and shut down all the churches if they were not following these strict rules because there was so much false teaching. There's been like healing rooms pop up, which is really
Mm.
witchcraft or the witch doctor, and they're using the local herbs. And he just shut everything down.
Yeah.
And it's been difficult for all of our pastors because most of them do not have a building anymore.
Wow.
And I just encourage them, keep doing what you've been doing, pour into your groups.
Yeah.
And so last year, I wanted to just give you this real quick, Eric. The whole year in 25, the churches has been closed. And what's happened is 183 new groups have formed.
Wow.
105 of those are strictly Bible study groups.
Okay.
Wow.
47 are more are both Bible study and community transformation. 31 of the 183 do evangelism, Bible study, the community transformation curriculum, and they're working through the trauma healing piece, which is a game changer for people stuck.
Mm.
And so out of 183 groups, so that she said that 2,909 heard the gospel this last year, 1,848 accepted Christ, and they had
100.
1,038 baptisms, and the churches are closed. And so it's almost finally
Wow.
18 years from when I first set foot in Rwanda. The building has been demolished out of their own, they had nothing to do with it. And
Right.
God has just come in and showed them that the bigger ministry is pouring into your local people,
Mm.
forming these groups that will disciple one another and love one another and share.
Mm.
So Hope Ministries is basically the Acts 2 church.
Wow.
It
Okay.
is doing all the things, right? It's not, yes, evangelism and discipleship is the most important thing we can do for somebody. But if somebody's saying, I can't hear because my stomach's hungry, or
Yeah.
I can't hear because I have been so traumatized that my brain cannot even
Yeah.
comprehend what you're saying.
Yeah.
And even for believers that are so traumatized that they're still stuck in that place of anger or in denial, they never I mean, I could be this broken person blaming the world for everything that happened to me, or I can take what I walked through and let Jesus heal me and use it for his glory
Mm.
and to
Mhm.
help other people. I mean, I hate the word holistically, but it's like it's a holistic
It's a holistic approach.
healing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
mind,
Yeah.
body, and spirit.
yeah.
And
Yep.
as Cassie
You
and I have talked, and I knew I was leaving E3 because the Lord told me before COVID.
Mm.
And Eric knows how long I've been talking about leaving E3, Eric.
a couple years.
Yeah, but I had
Well,
this habit of running ahead and not waiting. And so I've been in this place of waiting. And then the church wanted to go to Honduras. So we went under E3. And there's no fault of E3. I mean, I loved E3. They gave me a lot of things.
Mm.
But
what
now
I
it's time
what I
to,
want to say though,
yeah,
Pam, is that in our first episode with you, you talked about the trauma
yes,
that you grew up with and the trauma that
yes.
you perpetuated in your own life and in the lives of other people,
Yeah.
and God has redeemed that
He
and
has.
given you a ministry of helping
Yeah,
people. It's not like coincidental, and it's not
I don't
like
think
it's
so
not that
either.
hard to get your head around to go,
Mm-mm.
man, of course this lady's going to gravitate toward trying to empower people and traumatize people and help them. And I'm so excited that you're finally doing what you've been talking about doing for a
Me
lot of
too.
a lot of years, and I can see the
Mm.
excitement and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be great. The thing
Yeah.
that's cool about you, Pam, is that you're not only training like regular, like, the by definition the most like the most
Yeah.
unqualified, I'm doing air quotes, the
Yes.
most unqualified people on the planet to do ministry. But you've not gone the traditional qualifying route yourself. And
No, I'm uneducated
you
all
have
day.
made more disciples and
Mm,
baptized more people and shared the gospel more times than probably any pastor I've ever met.
mhm.
And you're just this little old gal from Alabama, right? And
Mhm.
Alabama. Yeah.
it's so awesome,
It's
because
awesome.
it's like the people when and we take I've been on enough of these trips like where pastors come and it's like, you're doing it all wrong. And
Yeah.
it's like, hey, why don't you
Yeah.
shut up and like watch what these people do for a minute because it will
Yeah.
blow your
Yeah.
mind. And
And,
the whole small town network,
mm,
like what I started our church here and the way we
Yeah.
do Discovery Bible Study and the churches that we're starting, all of that is me taking what I learned in Rwanda and
Yes.
coming
Yeah,
back to
absolutely.
America and going,
Yep.
how can I try to bring this back into a different context that's so different,
Yep.
but the principles are timeless. And
mm,
the fact that, I was just sharing with our church on Sunday, we've ordained like two or three, not ordained, commissioned two or three people into the ministry as pastors of
Yeah.
churches. We're getting ready to plant our fourth church.
That's so
We're
amazing.
and using Bible language, ordinary, untrained men,
Yes.
just
Yep.
regular people.
I
And
mean,
if you just get out of the way,
mm,
amen.
and trust that the Holy Spirit and the Word of God can work,
Yeah.
there's some simple stuff we can learn. And I learned them in a dirt hut in Rwanda.
mm.
And
Isn't it beautiful?
I went to change lives, Pam, and I came back with a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
what happens.
it's
Man,
so
Yeah.
powerful.
I'll tell you, just being the outsider here, listening to some of these things, just as a word of almost like a little bit of a preaching moment. But it's really incredible what
Mm.
happens when you finally get out of the loop of baptizing
Man.
your bad behavior and
I
surrender
love that. I gotta
your
write that
entire
down.
soul and your heart and your mind to Jesus and watch him work, So it's really cool. And I'm blessed to hear this story.
Mm.
It's awesome.
Well, let me just close real quick with the funny story. And I know Pam remembers this because on the mission field, there's so many weird things that happen on the mission field. You have these weird encounters with people. I don't know if they're weird for them, but they're certainly weird for us. But the last time I was in Rwanda, it was the only time that the baptisms always happened after we left. Well, this last time, they were going to
Mm.
baptize while we were there. And there was this little church building up on every place in Rwanda is like hilly, right? So there's like this very steep hilltop. There's this church. And then down the hill, there's like this pool that they're going to use for baptisms. And it predictably like leaks. It's like a cement pool, but it somehow it leaks. And people were just walking up the mountain with like 5-gallon buckets of water, trying to fill this thing up enough that we can baptize like 25 people. And the pastor says to me, "Oh, Pastor, do you want to help me baptize?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, I want to baptize people."
Yes.
So we
Yes.
go up to this church building, and he goes, "Here, put this on." And it was the most embarrassingly like white frilly dress I've ever. And I had to put it,
Let me see if I
and he's
got a
like, "And
photo of
here's
that.
white flip-flops for your feet." And I'm like, I know that I'm a missionary. I need to roll with the context here. I
Mhm.
I do not wear dresses, dude. And I had to put on this dress, and I'm like, like be humble. I'm talking to myself, be humble, like whatever, it's fine. And so then we walk out of the building, it's time to baptize, and it's a cultural thing. He wants to hold hands with me.
Yep. Yep.
I'm wearing a white dress with this who's also wearing a white dress, and we're holding hands and we're walking down to this leaky
Yep.
pool. And all of the people, this is like while I was at High Plains in Twin Falls, all of the people from my church that came with us were like 20 something college age, like young,
Yes.
young ladies. And they were laughing their heads off at me and
Yeah.
filming and just
Yeah.
you were laughing too, Pam.
I'm sure. I'm sure I was laughing.
Busting a gut about me walking out in
Yep.
this dress.
Sounds
Yeah.
like that was more like Oregon and less like
Oh
Rwanda.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, and we could go on and on, but
Yeah.
those people, most of them have never swam
Yeah.
and
They don't
they've never
swim.
even taken a bath.
Mm-mm.
right? They take a bath with like
Not a real bath,
a rag
bucket
and a bag of
baths.
water. So when you baptize people, they freak out
Oh.
Yep.
because they've never been under the water.
Mhm.
So you kind of it almost takes two people to kind of hold them under, and God bless them. They come out like that's where they ended the trauma training because they've just been drowned by some white guy from America. So
Oh
anyway,
man.
well, Pam, we
Yeah.
could, obviously go on and on and on, but
Yeah.
I want people to know that, these opportunities are available, and
Amen.
Mike and Mary, I think, were the ones who would say, we challenge everybody to go on an international
Yeah.
mission trip at least once in their life,
Yes.
and to have that experience and to
Yeah.
realize that not everywhere is where we are at. It
Yep.
doesn't even have to be a third world country, but it's
Mhm.
such a
Yeah.
life-changing experience to do that. And now
It is.
people are going to be able to like join and do stuff with your new ministry, right? You guys are not going
Yeah,
to do
absolutely.
a lot of evangelistic
Yeah.
church planting trips per
Yes.
se, but
Yes.
you are going to be doing these other kind of programs, the trauma training.
Absolutely.
So,
And just like with evangelism, we'll fully train and equip you, and you won't be thrown
okay.
to the wolves, anything like that.
And
So
so if people
yes.
want to get a hold of you, should they, I know you don't have a website yet. Can they just contact us and I can forward if people are interested?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We're working on like getting our like Google emails. So Ticey
Sure.
will have her own email and things like that. I have P Walker. Well, I probably better text it to you because
Okay. Yeah,
I
just
might
text me.
say it wrong. We just got that set up this
Okay.
week, and yeah, but
Well,
absolutely reach out to you, and you can forward them to me, give them my
thank you
phone
for,
number.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on. Thank you for what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
know, I know that like I'm going to tell my church, like, you need to listen to this lady's testimony. It's really
Mm,
good. And God has,
that's humbling.
in spite of all ourselves, God saves
Yes.
us and
Yeah.
Yeah.
redeems us, redeems our
Yes.
hurts. And
Yeah.
he isn't looking for qualified people. He's looking for willing people. And you
Mhm.
just keep being willing, and God just keeps putting ministry in front of you. So
Awesome.
God bless you for that.
Thank you
Yes.
Let's
so much, guys. Yeah, it was a
yeah,
lot of fun.
let me do our wrap up here and we'll get out
All
of here.
right.
So thanks for listening, everybody. I apologize for stepping out a few moments. My dishwasher repairman came while we're doing this podcast, of course, and he's a Ukrainian pastor and he wanted to talk to me. And I'm like, I really want to talk to you, but like not
Yeah.
right this second. I'm doing a podcast. So let's talk when you come back with the part that you just ordered, so like the comedy of error. So thanks for listening. Thanks for the putting up with the disruption. Be sure to check out our sponsor at 9centprinting.com. If you like what we're
Mm,
doing, please like or subscribe where you watch or listen. And if you're interested in Small Town Network, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. If you believe in the importance of planting disciple-making churches and
amen.
smaller communities, we'd love you to consider partnering with us in prayer and financial support. You've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com.